Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham is one of India's premier top-ranked universities which focuses on transforming lives through learning, research and innovation. The university was established 19 years ago in the year 2003 and has made significant achievements in a short time. Education for life, education for living. Amrita University is guided by the thoughtfulness of our Chancellor, Amma, who laid down the philosophy of education for life by placing equal stress on education for a living. It is this vision that led to the establishment of a vast network of educational institutions that provide modern education while imparting the traditional values. While the pursuit of academic excellence forms the core of Amrita's success, it also undertakes the responsibility to shape the whole character of youngsters with love, care and compassion. The university is headquartered at the foothills of the Western Ghats in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, and has 5 other campuses spread across South India in Amritapuri, Kerala, Kochi, Kerala, Bengaluru, Karnataka, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and Mysore, Karnataka. The university will soon launch its new campuses in Amravati, Andhra Pradesh, Faridabad, Delhi, NCR. Our inspiration, a renowned humanitarian leader and spiritual leader, Amma is the Chancellor and guiding light of Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Amma's concept of education, stress on research and commitment to instilling universal values have come together to shape Amrita into an institution where the latest achievements and discoveries combined with compassion and service-mindedness. As Amma said in 2010 when the State University of New York presented her with an honorary doctorate in Humane Letters. Rankings. The multi-campus, multidisciplinary research establishment is ranked as 5th best university in India 2021 by National Institutional Ranking Framework, NIRF. We have also been accorded the status of Institute of Eminence, IOE, by the Ministry of Education, Government of India. A testament to our pursuit of excellence is the NAC A++ accreditation score, the highest possible. NAC accreditation measures universities for excellence in curricular aspects, teaching, learning and evaluation, research, innovations and extension, infrastructure and learning resources, student support and progression, governance, leadership and management, institutional values and best practices, global impact and international collaborations. Among the private educational institutions in the country, Amrita has entered into MOUs and collaborations with more than 450 leading universities around the globe. Students also benefit from our relations with industries and interactions with top management of multinational companies. These collaborations facilitate student exchange programs, student visits, industrial training, and project guidance under reputed corporate entities. Placements. Placements at Amrita have always been best in class, with students usually having more than 1 job offer. Some students have up to 3 job offers by the end of their course from reputed MNCs, be it engineering, management, life sciences, arts or sciences. Amrita is a place where the world's best companies look for talent. More than 200 companies visit the campus every year, and the average salary offered to our students is 5.8 lakh per annum. Meanwhile, the highest package offered is 56.95 lakh per annum, and the highest stipend for internship is rupees 80,000 per month. Amrita's Technology Business Incubator, TBI, is a non-profit supported by the Government of India that funds, mentors, and nurtures ideas by startups and entrepreneurs. It focuses on developing innovations in the areas of information technology, cybersecurity, networking, social media, and more. The TBI startups have obtained multiple awards and recognition, both from India and across the globe. Till date, TBI has incubated more than 75 startups and mentored 216 startup ideas with 0% loss from investments. It funds up to 1 crore rupees per startup and has opened up many more funding options through its partnership with venture capital firms and angel investor networks. Amrita TBI is one of the only 6 incubators selected to be world-class under Niti Aayog's Atal Innovation Mission. Campus life, a home away from home. At Amrita, we believe in a holistic approach towards our students' development. To augment students' classroom learning, all campuses provide students with digital and central libraries, quiet study centers, seminar halls, e-learning studios, computer labs, and campus-wide free Wi-Fi. The university encourages both indoor and outdoor sports and games, and there are world-class swimming pools, gymnasiums, stadiums, and games arenas. Various clubs cater to the artistic and scientific minds of the students. If you look around all of Amrita's campuses, you will see the prevailing educational environment is in communion with nature. The sand, the seas, and the sky define the backdrop of these temples of learning. It vibrates with an energy of togetherness and encourages us to live in harmony with everything around us, including a unity within ourselves. This setting is suited to instill both learners and the learned with the courage and wisdom to face the challenges of life. The campus at Ettimani is considered India's most picturesque. It is like an oasis in a desert. What started out as a barren landscape underwent a miraculous transformation through the university's tree planting project. Today, there are more than 1 lakh trees growing there, the most extensive collection in number and species on a university campus in South India. The Live-in Labs program originated from Amma's idea to bridge the rural and urban divide by sending university students to remote villages in India to understand the everyday difficulties faced by people living there. The program is designed to be a multidisciplinary real-life learning experience offered to both international participants and Amrita University's faculty and students. The lab's objective is to expose youths to day-to-day problems faced in rural communities with a 2-week to 6-month periods of live-in internships in Indian villages. It also aims to inspire them to dedicate the knowledge and skills they acquired at university to help develop practical, cost-effective solutions to the challenges faced by the villages. Researchers at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham partner with senior scientists at world's leading research universities to innovate new ideas and invent new products, applying existing technology towards solving some of the world's most pressing problems, from disaster management to assuring access to education and the management and cure of diseases. This effort reflects in Amrita's national and international research rankings. India's first UNESCO Chair on Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality. Empowerment through Innovation and Technology. The Center for Women Empowerment and Gender Equality is a research-focused academic center for promoting gender equality and fostering women's empowerment with a special focus on using technology and other innovative methods. This center will offer diverse courses in key focus areas, pilot radical ideas, and collaborate with leading universities and institutions. The Amala Bharadam campaign, ABC, Clean India campaign, was a program pioneered by Amrita, aimed at improving public health and restoring India's physical beauty. The project was launched in 2010 during Amma's 57th birthday celebrations, and through this campaign, volunteers undertake periodic cleaning of roads, markets, temples, government offices, and hospitals. As a part of this campaign, garbage was sorted and either recycled or properly disposed of. Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, along with Kerala's Prisons and Correctional Services and Tamil Nadu Prison Department, initiated Amrita Yoga classes and IIM Technique meditation sessions in 2018 to address and transform the physical, mental, and emotional health of prison inmates. Our goal is to teach yoga and meditation techniques to help the prison inmates become more self-aware. They learn to breathe with awareness and manage emotions through these exercises. Ours is a changing world. It needs people who can adapt to change, with minds that can expand and include change, and yet hold human-friendly values that can withstand all changes. Which is why the world needs education that shapes the minds of these people, and which is why the world needs Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Education for life, education for living. A university where future is driven by imagination. Experiential learning creates diverse opportunities, where industry exposure and international partnerships help you sail. Come, start your journey towards success with Amrita University.
There's a place where the best minds come together, work to end inequalities, work towards transforming lives. This is a place recognized as one of the world's best universities. This is Amrita, now ranked among the top 100 universities in the world and ranked #1 in India. Amrita University.
There's a reason why we pick up the highest grades nationally and internationally, year after year after year. That reason is you. Now, with an A++ accreditation from NAC and consistent rankings among the top universities in NIRF, Amrita, we get recognized because you must.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
A pleasant evening to one and all who have joined the third day of the webinar series of Great Amrita Alumni Conclave, and a warm welcome to my former student and our alumnus, Mr. Ajit Pulyanikar. I'm Dr. Sandhya. I teach in the marketing area, and I'm from the Amrita School of Business, Kochi campus. I'm sure all of you would have seen the complete glance of what the university is all about. Recently, the School of Business was ranked 27th as far as the NIRF ranking. So that again is a lot of accolades and credits to the university, along with the other accolades the university has received in a very short span of time. And our university has been emerging and ever growing in the field of higher learning and education. So I'm sure you, the MBA aspirants, can trust on us for your academic progression. We believe in transforming individuals who confidently blend into the corporate environment. Before I leave the floor to our distinguished speaker for the day, I, with much pride, I would like to introduce him to all of you. Mr. Ajit Pulyanikat is alumnus from 2009-11 ASB Kochi batch and has over 14 years of experience in IT industry across multiple domains, including digital marketing, embedded system, consulting, media measurement, and analytics. Currently, he is playing a people manager role, leading the marketing measurement and analytics vertical at Nielsen's for the US clients. He is passionate about people, idea, optimization, and delighting clients. Apart from his academic and professional credential, he has been a contributing alumnus, have been giving back to his alma mater in many ways. He is alumni representative to the various ranking bodies and has been teaching digital marketing and elective course in the marketing stream. With all my heart, I welcome you, Ajit, to the great Amrita Alumni Conclave. He will be taking us through the topic transformation journey, awareness to insight to out of sight. Over to you, Ajit.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And a very warm good evening to everyone who is actually watching the streaming live. It's been a pleasure, and I would say it's a privilege for me to be part of this conclave. Always getting back to the alma mater is a big thing for me. It's a very precious thing for me. So thank you for having me here today. And today, as Sandhya ma'am said, we're going to take you, or probably we'll spend some time walking through a transformation journey. And before I start something, let me share my screen and I can walk you through a few slides. Very cool. All right. I'm assuming that you can see my screen, this opening slide. And with that, let me start with this journey. So next probably 30 to 40 minutes, I'm going to take you through a journey, a transformation journey, and I'll try to keep it, as simple and with brief examples, the best way I can. And we will also see what it means and how do we take this journey. So all the aspirants out there who's probably looking forward to have an higher education and business management, how do you transform your journey? How do you equip yourselves in that journey, and how do you prepare yourselves to be part of this, the market and the industry? So without much ado, let's start with the slicing the dice in the topic, right? So it's a long topic, as you can see, transformation from awareness to insight to out of sight. So let's start with transformation. And what is a transformation to start with? So I think almost every one of us, all of us would, at some point of time, would have really planned for or wished for one or the other kind of transformation. It could be like transforming ourselves into a better individual, transforming ourselves into a better parent, or maybe at workplace, transforming yourselves into a better contributing individual, right? It could be a transformation in learning. So at any point of time, it's a human nature to improve ourselves, to transform ourselves into a better self. And I think in this world, transformation takes a very important place, because it's a very changing world. It's a VUCA world. And how do we equip ourselves with this changing environment, changing industry? You need to keep updated on a lot of things. So in this world, I think transformation takes an important precedence and priority. And the transformation which I want to talk about in the next 30 minutes is about how do you transform yourself so that you are better equipped to contribute back in the industry, to actually add value back to the industry. How do you do your work? How do you contribute back to your organization in a better way? And that transformation journey, in fact, starts from awareness and to insight and to out of sight. So let's try to see what each of these categories are and how do we start this journey. So awareness, to start with, is more about, how do we know things? How do we learn things? How do we prepare ourselves so that we understand the world? like you, I'm sure you all know that it's a very complex business world out here. A lot of changes, a lot of new companies coming out, a lot of new solutions coming out, and all, right? So to understand this world, it's very important to have a strong foundation of the multiple aspects of a business, and that is where awareness comes into the picture. So if you ask me, awareness is all about gaining the right knowledge from the right minds and the bright minds in the industry, in the academics, and building a strong foundation on top of that. And if you were to explain it a little more deeper, concepts are very important. At the same time, building a strong concept foundation is very important. And like I said, it's what are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You're trying to do that. You're trying to build a strong foundation so that you understand the business in detail. And to help in that, there are a lot of pillars which you have to actually go through. Let me put a few examples here, what actually an MBA aspirant will go through in the journey of awareness or in the journey of knowledge gaining. Few important ones would be like business analytics. How is my business performing? How is my organization's business performing? What is actually driving sales? What is not? How is my marketing efforts giving me results? Or it could be finance. How is my numbers in the finance numbers looking like, right? What is the cash flow I have? What I'm spending more? How can I optimize my cash spend? It could be in the people side, right? How do you build great teams, strong teams, which are people focused with the concepts of inclusion and growth? So it could be about marketing. So irrespective of which field you are in, irrespective of which stream you are interested in, and even if you're not an aspirant, you're actually a working professional, irrespective of which stream you're working in, I believe I believe strongly that at some point of time in our career, in our work, all these aspects, all these core pillars would come into play. I might be working in people in HR, but definitely at some point these core pillars of finance and operations would help me as an HR person. So these concepts, building a strong concepts is very important. Like I said, if let's say your interest in stream is marketing, because I work in core marketing and technology world. So if it's marketing for you, how are your brand performing? What is the ways in which you can reach more customers? Technology is changing. People are moving from RQ to Facebook to Instagram to TikTok and whatnot, right? Be real. And I mean, the world is changing from a social media point of view. How do you reach your prospects? It's changing. How do you reach your customers? It's changing. So if you want to reach the right audience through the right marketing ways, you need to have a strong foundation. So you're building a strong foundation of understanding the concepts of all pieces of the pillars that is going to help you out in working in this VUCA volatile world. So that's the core pillars. I'm sure I'm not included all the core pillars, but some of the core pillars which we all need to equip ourselves to actually perform and give back value back to this industry. Along with that, like we all know, it's not a silo, right? There is no company which operates in silos. Most of the companies have operations internationally with multiple cultural, diverse workforce. And so you need to think through those lines as well. How am I going to actually contribute if my business is running span globally, right? What is the strategy I should be looking out for? How do I make sure that my business is running sustainably? How do I make sure that my team is sustainable? How do I ensure growth of the team? And how do I innovate myself and the team and my organization, right? So all these aspects, all these core concepts is what an MBA would equip you. And I can vet it with full confidence that, I've experienced this, I've built my foundation through this program. So that's the first step. Now, is it enough? Is it enough to learn it all and build a good knowledge base? Is that enough? I would say no. That's the first stepping stone. And that stone doesn't end. That stepping stone never ends. You keep learning throughout your life. So now let's take a one step back and then see, we're talking about a transformation journey, and we started with awareness, building a knowledge base, right? So what is the next step? So once you have the core knowledge, which you're going to equip through the great minds in the academia, then the next step is to actually move on and equip yourselves to see how can I let me hide this. Okay. How can I build, or how can I generate insights from this knowledge what I have gained so far? Now, let me clarify this something very briefly. Insights is not summary, right? Let's say we read an article, a news article, or an economist review, and you summarize it. The summary is not actually insight. Insight is something that is hidden. It is not in the top layer, right? You understand the concept. Sorry. Okay. Right. So it's not an summary of what you would have read or learned. These are insights are basically gems of data, gems of information that is hidden inside the layer. So when you start digging deeper, when you start looking deeper, that is when you start seeing insights. Now, how do you do that? You need to think through different perspectives. You need to bring different perspectives into the picture, right? So now, how do you bring different perspectives? That's when you bring in all the information, what you've gained through all the different concepts, what you learned in the academia, and you think through those shoes and see what is this story telling me. Let's say you're looking to some data, right? A data of 5-year sales data of one organization, and you're handling the marketing for that or sales for that. The 5-year data is going to tell you some stories, but it is not going to tell you insights. When you look deeper into it, when you analyze it with from a marketing, operations, and finance perspective, that's when you start seeing insights. I can give you some examples as we progress through the slides, but the point I'm trying to make here is building a knowledge and applying that knowledge in a practical sense through case studies, through simulation games like Capstone, through projects, etc. That is where you start learning about how do I look into insights, and that is what an MBA program again equips you. So, like I said, taking a step back to the topic again and say that I'm reinforcing the concept that in this world, in this industry, to contribute in the most effective way, we want people who can understand things, who knows things, who will have a learn it all attitude. And on top of that, people who can actually look into the data and stories and figure out insights. And that is a program, MBA program can equip you to do that. Now, moving on, where do insights come from? Insights come from primarily motivation and curiosity, right? If I'm motivated to explore multiple angles of a piece of content or data, and if I have the curiosity to ask the right questions, to explore things, that is when I'm going to find insights. Like I said, 5-year sales data is not going to give me any insight, but I'm curious to know why did the sales increase? Why did the sales drop? What was the global micro and macroeconomic impacts on my sales data, right? Those curiosities, those questions, those motivation to do that is going to bring in insights. So insights come from that curiosity. And sometimes insights come from triggers and coincidence, right? It is not your intention, it is not intentional, but sometimes like by pure coincidence, you happen to see some outliers in the data. It could be data, like I said, you can apply it across anything. It could be your sales data, it could be your HR, it could be anything, any story, or it could be even a news article what you're reading. You read an article, but you're not really satisfied with the summary of the article. You're curious to know why is it so. You're curious to know, is it right? And you happen to read another article, and through pure coincidence as well, you might get some insights out of the data or content or whatever you're reading through. So that's another place from where you can get insights. And to get insight, you need to have your brains sharp, right? So that's where when you start doing new activities, right? You learn a concept, you apply it through a capstone project, you network with people in the industry, you do some contributions, and you walk through some forums, you participate in some data hackathons or marketing hackathons. That is when you involve in new activities and parallel activities related to your stream or to your job, you start finding insights. And sometimes contradictions can bring in insight. Like you learn something, you learn the concept, right? And there's a real life example in front of you. But what you're seeing is the real life example is a bit contradictory from what you had learned. So why is it so, right? So that can also bring in insight. So the point I'm trying to say is it's easy not to see an insight, right? To get satisfied with what you know, what you learn. But when you start seeing insights, that is going to drive your career, drive your life in a very different angle, which you're going to enjoy and get satisfied to much better levels. And insights are disruptive. Let me also call that out. Insights are a bit disruptive. Like when you find an insight, you'll be prompted to see why is it so. You'll have to go behind it. You'll have to spend sometimes extra hours for that, but it is worth the effort. So don't shy away from it. With whatever I said or covered so far, and then if you take a step back, one important angle which you would have noticed is to find insights from awareness, to move from awareness to insights. one important aspect, one important activity, what you have to involve in is asking questions, right? So you see, like I said, you see some data, you read some article, but you feel that's odd. That's not what I was expecting. That's odd. That's a question. You also ask, like, probably in a different case, is it different from what I've learned in theory? It's a contradiction. You're asking a question. Why is it so, right? You're not convinced. You're convinced about the result, but you're not convinced why is that happening. You're not happy about the source. You want to more. You are more curious to find the source. So you're asking why, right? So that is actually prompting you to find an insight. So is there a pattern in what I'm seeing? Is this true? So the core crux of this is you're moving from an awareness to insight. One key element is asking questions. The questions you can ask to anyone, and most importantly, you need to ask these questions to yourself. So it's more like, I'm not satisfied with what I'm seeing. I'm going to ask myself, is this true? Let me explore more and all. So that's the next step. That's the next step in the journey of moving from awareness to insight. Let's take a hypothetical example, and I'll keep it very simple. I'm not going to bring any data science example. I'll keep it very simple, and I'm calling it hypothetical just because I'm not going to tell which brand and which data it is. So let's assume that we are in an awareness stage. I'm learning, right? So I'm learning the concepts of marketing. I'm learning the concepts of business administration. And what you see here is a plain, simple vanilla graph of an ice cream. And ice cream is one of my favorites, so I cannot skip ice cream as an example. So what you see here is a simple chart of an ice cream sales, and with date in the x-axis and the number of volume or the sales volume in the y-axis. So anyone can interpret this graph, can see this graph, read this graph, right? It is not rocket science. And what this graph is telling you is the sales have increased in the April 20s, and then it has dropped in the year 2020, July, and then towards the end of, I think, April and May of 2021, the sales have again increased, and finally it has dropped, and then it has never picked up, right? So this is what this chart is telling you. But is it enough? Does this give you any insight? Probably not, right? This is information. This is awareness of how a brand is performing, right? If you get satisfied with this, then you're not transforming yourself. Now, if you take this one step further and ask this question of why is it so? Why is my sales peaking around April, May, and why is my sales dropping around June, July, and why is my sales completely down by August 2021, right? You're asking that why question. Probably there could be many reasons. So one probably could be the price, right? We know that, when price increases, sales might decrease, right? When there are offers and the price reductions are happening, sales can increase. So could be price. So you're curious about what could be causing it, and then you try to explore price of ice cream of this particular brand. So, and let's hypothetically believe that you are taking care of the sales and marketing of this particular brand. And when you look at the price, things have not changed much. It's around 125, 127. It has dropped to 120, but not very drastically. Again, it doesn't tell you much, but it tells you that price is not really the root cause for that sales fluctuations what you are seeing. And in fact, actually, if you look in June, the prices were 120, the lowest, but the sales was also lowest. So contradicting to what we had learned, right? Contradicting to the point of that if the price drops, sales increase. This is a contradiction here, because price have dropped, but sales have also dropped. It's a bit odd, right? So I'm trying to connect back to all those questions. It's odd. It's why, and it's contradictory. I'm not able to believe this, but all you know is probably price is not the reason. You explore more out of your curiosity, and probably you think, what if customers are moving from this brand? They are moving out of this brand. There's a lot of customer churn. That could be a reason. But when you look at the customer churn data, you don't see much, again, variations there. There is a 2 to 4% change in the customer churn, but nothing enough to make you believe that, this is the root cause. And in fact, there is another contradiction here. With July, churn has increased, which means a lot many people are actually moving out. But again, not very much. But again, you cannot pinpoint this and tell that, okay, this is the reason for the drop in sales. I'll take a step back and look at the chart again, because I'm not convinced about this chart. I'm not able to explain it. I'm kind of curious, but I'm trying to explore options. I'm trying to think through all the aspects, knowledge I have gained through the awareness stage, but still I'm not really convinced about what could be the reason. So at this point, like I said, to reiterate, I can stop here and say sales have dropped in June, in June, July. It is picked up, it has dropped, and end of story. I can stop there, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to explore multiple ways. So this is where you're moving out from awareness to, at this point, you're actually searching for insights. You're going from one more step further from insights to out of sight. You're searching for out of sight. We'll see what out of sight is, sites are. But your curiosity have taken you to think through how is this brand, a different line of business is performing, like yogurt, right? Ice creams and yogurt are two different line of business. How is yogurt performing? You're curious to know about it. You look into data, and surprisingly, what you're seeing is around the same time when the ice cream sales decreased, yogurt sales have increased. So now you have one out of sight, which was not visible earlier, which tells you yogurt have increased, ice cream sales have decreased. Probably yogurt is causing, the drop in sales of ice creams. So what we're talking about is a brand cannibalization, right? One brand or one line of business cannibalizing under sales. You learn this. You have learned this. You'll go through these theories in your academics as part of business administration, or if you're working and you're already finish your MBA, I'm sure you'd have learned through all these pieces. But what he's saying is probably yogurt is cannibalizing ice cream. You can stop there and say, okay, that is a core reason, end of story. But out of sight, with curiosity, with your willingness to explore more, you cannot stop there. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to think through both of these things connecting together, ice cream sales and yogurt sales. And I will explain it again once more briefly. If you look at the chart with all the out of sight, what you've gained so far, what you're seeing is ice cream sales have dropped, yogurt sales have increased. You are happy. But as I said, you're curious. You still want to know an answer. Why didn't this happen in June 2020? In June 2020, ice cream sales have decreased, but yogurt sales have not increased. But why did it happen in April, July time period of 2021, right? So again, curiosity, searching for out of sight. And interestingly, you are exploring multiple options, theories and all. One thing what comes to your mind, let me take back and say, one thing that comes to your mind is in this region where you're talking about this brand sales is, right? Typically April, May is when you see a lot of, it's a summertime, a lot of people who love to have an ice cream in the summertime. So ideally it's expected to see spike in ice cream sales in the summertime. Considering that, let's assume that the geography is India, somewhere in India, right? So April, May, increase in sales, that's justified. What could be the reason in drop in sales in July? Again, you're thinking July is when the monsoon hits, long rains, heavy rains. So at rainy time, right? During those periods, it's more like there are a lot of cases, increase in the common cold, flu, and all. And during those times, I think people tend to have less ice creams because it's more frozen, it's cold, and probably switch to something else, right? Some alternate. And yogurt is a good fit there because yogurt is actually a healthy diet, biotic, a lot of nutrients, not very frozen like an ice cream. So now to vet that, you're looking into some other data to ensure that your assumption, your hypothesis is right. You're looking into the average rainfall of that region. And surprisingly, what you're saying is it's true, right? June, July, the highest rainfalls, rainfalls in that region. So I think at this point, I'm trying to believe myself that the hypothesis of the story I have, the out of sight I have found out, it's true because rains have increased consumption of yogurt, reducing the consumption of ice cream. So all looks good, all fits well. But again, let's again connect all these dots and think through again. Because I want to have this transformation from awareness to insights to out of sight. So I'm not ready to settle with what I've found so far. I'm keen to explore more. So to summarize and to look it further, I'm trying to look at it through every angle. And in brief, what you're seeing here is rainfall explains this, highest rainfall, lowest ice cream sales, increase in yogurt, it explains that. So that makes sense. But what about this period? This is again a black box, right? July, there is heavy rains, but ice cream sales have decreased. But why didn't yogurt sale increase? you are exploring more options, and I'll try to summarize it with one possible hypothesis here. Because July 2020, the COVID was at the peak, and then there were a lot of rumors and false claims going around internet and everywhere that if you're having ice cream, then probably your chances of getting COVID is higher. Or if you're having ice cream when you're COVID positive, your chances of recovery from COVID can take more time, more days, right? So there was a false belief that spread around that ice cream is not a good choice during COVID. So that's probably one reason why why the ice cream sales were dropped. But again, yogurt doesn't increase in yogurt, or yogurt sales remain the same. That doesn't explain it still. But you tend to believe that probably people don't really differentiate ice creams and yogurts, right? When it comes to COVID, a very serious nightmare like a COVID, right? People don't really want to take risk. Okay, ice creams I will not have, but instead I'll have yogurt. So people tend to take the risk. Let me avoid all the cold foods. That could be a reason. And that's true because this hypothesis have its own proof, which we can explain by saying that during September, I think 2020, the India government and the Ice Cream Federation, the Manufacturing Federation actually launched or released an update saying that there is no correlation between COVID and ice cream, right? So, the story is not really important. The story why I've said so far is not really important. But the idea what I was trying to convey here is, if you were satisfied with the first chart what we had seen, you would have kind of summarized your awareness. You would have vetted your awareness with that chart, with the data. If you replace this data with anything in this world, it could be like I said, an article what you read, a news article that you read. You read it, you summarize it, and you stay happy with that. That is not the end point. You're not transforming yourself. When you start exploring to different angles, different aspects, different perspective, and you bring in all the learnings what you have into the same picture, trying to correlate that, trying to find the causes, trying to relate everything, trying to summarize, you look for news articles, policy changes, and all those things in the piece. You bring in lot of information with a lot of effort, right? But that effort is worthy. And that effort and that transformation, that curiosity and motivation, that has led you to identify probably a root cause for entire reasoning. What are you seeing here? The root cause for whatever happened with ice creams and yogurt. So the point again I'm trying to stress here is, it doesn't matter if it's about ice cream sales or yogurt sales or anything or not. Anything what you try to do in your workplace, in your learning curve, in learning phase, always try to keep this in your back of your mind. Is it just an awareness? Is it just an insight? Or is it out of sight? And let me add one more point here before I move on to next. Right? Today, the world needs people who can find out of sight. Awareness is not enough. Awareness and foundational knowledge is very important. Finding insights is very important. There are a lot of people who can find insights based on the knowledge. What is going to make you apart? What is going to make you stand apart from the crowd is your ability to find something very deeper, something that is out of sight, right? Like the name states. It takes effort, it takes practice, it takes attitude, that curiosity to find out of sight information. And believe me, you start applying this concept across anything you do, you'll find results which probably nobody else can find it out. And that is going to make you stand apart from the crowd, even at your workspace or with your colleagues or with your batchmates or whatever. So that's the journey I'm talking about. And this was just an example, a basic example, so that I can explain the story. But the message is more important than the story here. Summarizing what I said so far, with just awareness, what you knew was ice cream sales were decreasing. With just insights, you knew as pricing and customer churn were not the root cause. There are some external factors, right? You didn't stop there, you went further. With out of sight, you got this idea within the story, like yogurt is cannibalizing ice cream, COVID-related false claims are influenced, rains are also playing a role in changing the consumer preference from ice creams to yogurt. And that is true knowledge, and that's true value, what you can provide back to the organization. If you are a brand marketer for that brand, or if you're looking at the data for that particular brand, and you come back with a story, right? You have a nice story, 2-slider story telling that, this is the reason for this. That makes you stand apart from the crowd. So like I said, the world needs people who can find out of sight. And how do you find out of sight? Probably something which I already covered, but summarizing it here because I think it's very important. How do you find out of sight? And for that, on top of the knowledge base what you have built, you need to follow the industry, right? Whichever industry you are in, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of stream, you need to know what's happening in this world. You need to know the news. You need to follow all the legal frameworks. But I think today it's equally and more important to understand the legal frameworks. And I'm not saying that you need to understand the entire legal framework on how it operates, what are the rules and what are the do's and don'ts. But what I'm trying to say is, how can legal frameworks or changes in legal frameworks impact the business? It could be your own business, you're an entrepreneur. It could be the organization what you're working for, or it could be even your client, right? You're working for your client. So how the legal frameworks on changes can actually impact it? So you need to follow all these updated, keep yourself updated. And like I said, it's a global world. You're working in international business. So you need to understand what are geopolitical nuances, what can actually impact the business. And this is not something which you do overnight, right? And that's where the MBA curriculum, the program equips you to do that. From day one, you get exposed to this, the process, the training, the style of learning, what you see through an MBA program at Amrita would actually equip you to start your journey by exploring all these aspects. So framework, so the foundation knowledge gaining, awareness is important. Along with that, you start slowly exploring all these things from day one at your Amrita campus. And that's very important. And most importantly, and equally important, I would say, you need to talk to people. You need to collaborate. You need to talk to people. You understand what their thoughts are, right? What is the experience, what experience stories they can share with you. That's where you find out of sight. And what do we gain? I mean, it's a lot of effort, right? It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of pain. You have to spend a lot of time, a lot of, yeah, I mean, why is it worth doing it? Yes, you gain a lot. You're going to gain something like a novel, new, surprising findings, which others may not be able to find it out. And that's going to make you stand apart, like I said. And with all these findings, now let's take the ice cream yogurt story, right? So all the findings are good. What are you going to do with the findings? Now you can really have an actionable result-oriented plan, right? And do you want to market in a different fashion in June, July, because rains are there, yogurts can be more selling, it can impact ice cream. So should you change the marketing technique for ice cream, right? How should you place ice creams versus yogurt? That information you're going to get, because you're getting actionable, result-oriented plans. You're able to build them because you're looking for outer sight. You have found outer sight. And credibility, right? When you present this back to your organization or to your customer or to the brand, it increases your credibility, because the story is not, just a half-baked story. The story is supported and backed by credible data, proofs, and the story has gone to every extent possible. So that gives you credibility as a professional. And to do this, it's very simple. It's not rocket science, like I said. It's a small change in mindset that we all need, and that mindset will naturally come as part of this program and process. Simple mindset of asking questions to others, to self, and stop drawing boundaries. Right? I know this, I see this, and I'm happy with it. No, that doesn't work. You're not drawing boundaries. You should not draw boundaries. You're breaking all boundaries, exploring from all angles, 360 degree, and then you're finding out. You're searching for knowledge. You're searching for information. You're searching for outer sight. That's what you do. That's the mindset you need to get out of sight. And before I wind up, probably under 2 to 3 minutes, but I want to again stress one more important point, which I think is important in finding out of sight. Don't accept anything unless you're convinced, right? You read, you understand, you find something, you find it contradictory, don't accept it. But you should not stop there. It's okay not to accept it, but then your job is to find out what is that lacking there? What is the gap there? I need to understand that. I need to explore it and find it. So don't accept everything unconvinced. Get yourself convinced, but to get convinced, go the extra mile. I'll tell you one last story, one last slide to stress the importance of exploring until you get convinced. Again, ice creams. Unfortunately, I cannot skip ice creams. So again, ice creams. So this is actually an article that came in Economist. So I'm sure you'd have heard about this organization, their articles, their reviews economist. So it's been across the world, across organizations, it's been respected. Economist articles and reviews are very much respected because it's a bunch of intelligent, industry aware team who's actually writing all these articles. And there's one article that came up which said ice cream and IQ. And what you're seeing here is actually, an educational score, PISA score, an x-axis, and then an ice cream consumption in the y-axis. And you can read this like any other score. Let's call it CGPA score, your educational score, right? Your exam score. That's what you have in the x-axis. So higher the score, definitely the better. And that's what the x-axis is telling you. And the y-axis here is telling you that how many ice creams you have across countries. And what is plotted here is this data for different countries. And I'll give you an example and tell you how to interpret this, right? So Australia and Finland, if you take, they have high scores. I mean, the students there have high scores in exams, right? The international exams, they have higher scores, which means, and at the same time, if you look at x-axis, they consume a lot of ice creams. And what economist is telling us, ice cream and IQ are related. And they're citing the example of Australia and Finland, saying that Australia and Finland students have high educational scores, and that's because they are having a lot of ice creams. So ice cream can boost IQ. That's what this article tells you. You can search in Google and read through this. That's exactly what this article is telling you. If I'm reading this article, I can be happy with this because it's economist is telling this. Definitely they would have done some homework, studies and all. And you see some R-square, all the statistics, the terms coming in here. So you tend to believe, okay, this could be true, right? But I'm not convinced because I see few red flags. One is the topic says ice cream and IQ. But how can an education score decide IQ, right? Higher the score, definitely he's intelligent, he or she is intelligent, he's put a lot of effort, he knows the concepts and all. But theoretically, if you look at Google, there is no study that has proved that higher score relates to higher IQ. So that itself is a red flag. For me, it's a red flag. So I'm not convinced of that part. Second of that is, what about Singapore and Hong Kong? Students there have high scores. They have pretty good scores, 550 out of 600, right? It's a pretty high score, more than Australia and Finland. And they don't really consume much ice cream, around 2 liters per year. That's what they consume. So how do you explain that? So that's an outlier. I'm not convinced with this insight or this data what economist is saying, because I see an outlier here. That's the second red flag. So the point I'm trying to convey here is I'm not saying economist is wrong, this chart is wrong, but the idea I'm trying to convey here is you're not convinced until you're not stopping until you're convinced, irrespective of what the data source is. And that is going to drive you into, push you into look into multiple angles and get you into some rough path, but eventually you'll have some gains of understanding something which others may not be able to. One last point to add in this chart is probably this could be a joke from economists. If you look at this article and you search in Google, this article came on April 1st of, I think, 2018 or something, right? It came on April 1st. Maybe it's an April Fool joke from economists. That's another important point. A very simple point came in April 1st. What if this is a joke? So the point is, unless until you're convinced about the data, what you're seeing, about the stories, what you're hearing, the theories, what you're learning, and you try applying it in the real life, keep asking questions. With that, I'm almost towards the end of the message I want to convey with you. And I have to, very happily say that I transformed from a knowledge consumer, right? I was seeking knowledge. I was trying to understand the concepts, the pillars of economics, finance, HR, operations, marketing, and everything. So I transformed, as part of the MBA program, I transformed myself from that knowledge seeker to an out of sight seeker, right? I'm not just consuming knowledge, but I'm going to ask questions. That's a mindset I had as part of the journey of the 2 years at the MBA. And I keep that goal. I keep that as one of my key priority when I work day in, day out, right? I'm not convinced. If I'm not convinced, I go ahead and extend and try to do that in every aspect, every project I'm in, every meeting I'm in. So I'm so thankful for this program, for taking me through this transformation journey from knowledge consumer to outer-side seeker. And I also want you guys to experience it, so irrespective of whether you are an aspirant, you are a working professional, irrespective of which stream you are in and what your goal is, try exploring this angle of transforming yourself. And I'm sure you're going to be happy at the end of the day and you're going to see some great changes. Wish you all a great transformation journey, and that's all from me at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful story to the transformation journey, Ajit. And I really like the analogy that you had presented from the economist insight. So do we consider it as an April Fool or what? Definitely IQ is an essential component for the academic progression. So let us have a lot of aspirant MBAs again, as narrated by you, asking a lot of questions. So maybe we can take questions. Those who wish to ask questions can post it on the chat window. And in the meantime, so maybe they're just preparing their questions. I have a couple of them. Maybe it might benefit some of the MBA aspirants. What are the skill sets required by an MBA aspirant? I'm sure they would be preparing for their examinations, their entrance. They would be undergoing coaching. They would be doing their graduate program simultaneously. Some would be, lateral entries, and they would be working in an organization. What are the prerequisites that they have to have when they come in for an MBA program?
Yeah, happy to take my view on that, ma'am. And so I would say the most important aspect or the most important element that has to be inculcated on those aspirants is, is to keep a mindset of learn it all, right? So when you walk in for an MBA program, you're going to see different aspects of different terminologies, different, courses, and different, some may be easier for you, some may be difficult for you. But I think the first step is to have a mindset of, an attitude and a mindset of learn it all. And in this journey of 2 years, whatever comes in your way as an information, keep sure that you have it, you gain it, you learn it, and you keep it with you and put that into action. So that mindset is the first thing I would say. But again, the mindset doesn't really help, right? So I would say the second most important piece in that case is we cannot think of anything in this industry without data, right? Everything boils down to data. Now, how do you, even before you start the MBA program, how do you get exposed? How do you start loving data? And it's very easy actually. So every graduate or every professionals out in the industry who are aspirants of MBA program, it's very easy to actually get in love with data, because there are a number of ways in which you can pull out free data, right? Let's say you want sales data, there are a lot of free sample data. So if you want finance data, you have a lot of free samples of finance data. So I think with a mindset of learning it all, and with a mindset and then mindset of looking into data, trying to figure out or understand data, start loving data is the most important aspect before they start the MBA program. Everything else, I'm sure I'm experienced. Everything else would be equipped as we progress through the 2 years journey.
Okay, my next question is, what are the soft and hard skills that they should actually equip in themselves when they are doing the MBA program, and what are the corporates looking out for these days?
That's a great question, ma'am, and thanks for asking that. I've been part of multiple interviews across academics. I mean, as part of my job across different companies. I think I can definitely say is, most important aspect of a soft skill what industry looks for is communication, right? That is the most key element which probably I would look for and my organization would look for. Because as long as you are able to communicate it, I mean, I say communication, right? How can you convey something in a most simplest form, the most clear form, right? It may not be a lot of jargon, but the most simplest way, how can you explain something to someone? be it a layman, be it an expert in the field, but how do you explain it, right? And when I say communication, there is, as you know, there are multiple forms, right? Written communication, or I mean, even emails. These days, emails are used widely. I mean, more than that, take a step further. How good are you in communicating your idea to someone whom you are meeting in a lift, right? You accidentally meet your CEO in a lift, and then how are you going to communicate what you're doing to CEO, right? So you get brisk 2 seconds, 10 seconds to communicate that. How do you do that? If at all you were to communicate a big problem to clients, right? How are you going to do that? You have 20 minutes for that. How are you going to do that? So irrespective of the context, irrespective of the need, irrespective of what you're trying to achieve, how good are you to communicate? So communication skill is one important aspect what industry would really need. And there are a lot of soft skills probably which industry always wants people to have. And I think one other thing, if I want to add to it, is how open are you to handle changes, right? There are two ways to handle change, right? Change, disruption, these are part of life in the industry world. So when a change comes, do you see it as an opportunity, right? How are you going to cope the change? How are you going to plan for the change, right? Let's say someone has been put into a very entirely different role. How are you going to respond back to that? So that again comes back to the mindset and then the preparation. But change management, how people handle change, is one important element personally I would look for.
Thank you, Ajit. And apart from this, I'm sure a lot of students who are, completing or planning to do their MBA would have some thoughts in mind. What kind of industries are really looking out for, MBA professionals? And what is the kind of change that has happened in the corporate environment post-pandemic? I wouldn't say the pandemic is over, still it's on, but then, the fiery phase is all gone, right? So there has been a lot of transformation and transition that businesses and the transformation that's happened in the workplace. So how do you think an MBA professional, once they finish up their 2 years of MBA program, what kind of industries would be looking out for them? What is the job market like? How much are they in demand? Can you just throw some light into it? I'm sure, these are questions not for myself. I'm posing these questions in favor of the aspirants.
Right, sure, ma'am. I can definitely talk more about the industry which I am in. It's more, again, technology, IT, and to some extent marketing. But I think what I've sensed, what I've seen is, the post-pandemic, there is, and it's just not related to the pandemic, but again, it's more related to the advancement in the data, in the technology, and the terabytes of data what is being produced every day, right? So I'll probably nail it back to data here. Post-pandemic and pre-pandemic, if you compare the volume of data that is being available about a customer or the volume of data about your business, it has multiplied multiple times. So because everything is digital these days, there are a lot of companies and entities moving almost all aspects into digital world. With digital, you're seeing exploding data, and you need people who can crunch and slice and dice this data. You definitely have technology like the algorithm, the science, data science, which can do its part, and the machine learning and all, it can do its part. But definitely at the end of the day, you still need people who can actually guide these statistical models, identify which model is best for continuous data, and like I said, look into data and look into model outputs and vet it whether it's good or bad, right? So that brings me to this answer to your question, Sam. In this data intensive world, I'm sure one of the important aspect, or one of the important role what most of the companies and almost every company is looking for is people who are good in analytics, right? And analytics, when I say, it's very broad and very brief, and very generic topic. Like you can do analytics on anything. It may not be just. There's a lot of companies providing end-class solutions in human resource analytics, right? So I'm not just talking about IT and analytics, but I'm talking about any stream, irrespective of what it is, skill set, people who are capable of looking at data, analyzing them. So I would say data analyst, science analyst, data statistical model experts. So some amount of, whatever you can do in data crunching, that is in high demand. And I have experience in the hiring process, what we do as well. So that is definitely one. And the other one I would say is like, probably not as, from a recruitment headcount perspective, not as many as data scientists you would need and human resource personnel, but definitely I'm seeing an increase in demand for people leaders. I'll call it people leaders. I'll not call it HR, or I'll not call it as resources, but I'll call it as people leaders. And when I say people leaders, like the pandemic has taught us, almost every organization, that things can change overnight, right? And when things change overnight, how do you help your workforce to grow? How do you make sure that they're included? They have an inclusive feeling. How do you avoid the risk of, the fears they have? And how do you probe them and support them so that they can bring the best, productivity? So I would say that is one lesson what many organizations have learned, that we want MBAs, we want managers, or we want experts, but we want them to be people leaders, which means I see an increase in trend for a demand for people leaders. So I'll not call it as human resource, but people leader could be anyone, but definitely people who are gonna specialize in human resource. They definitely they learn a lot about resources and people management, right? But irrespective of which stream you are in, definitely there's more need for people leaders. And I'll again connect this back to the earlier point I said. The world is changing. Things are changing overnight. There's a lot of new areas coming up, right? There's a lot of demand coming up. Even we have seen inflation probably. Expected inflation probably in the next few months. There are rumors around it. We're not sure. But when all these changes comes up, we want people who can guide, mentor, and lead the resources. So that's where I think human resource skill set is coming into picture here. I'm not sure I could answer you completely, but there's not limited
partially, I believe. But then, maybe you belong to the IT industry, you could throw some light very specific to that industry, and your career has been very much close to the industry. So that's one thing that you could share with us. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ajit, for your time and very thoughtful, share of insights to the aspirants. We haven't received any questions from the participants, and maybe we can consider it as a closure of the series today.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me here and giving me this opportunity. And I'm so happy to have this conversation with all the folks that joined. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajit, for your wholehearted contribution always.